Hello, bonjour, buenos dias. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, thank you for the opportunity to address you on behalf of the Government of Canada. We extend our sincere thanks and warm congratulations to the Government of Mexico and to the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk for convening this platform. Le Canada est ici pour apprendre des autres, pour partager son expérience et pour ouvrir les portes à la future collaboration afin de tenir les engagements de carte de Sendai. A few short weeks ago, we welcomed 55 countries and territories from across the Americas to Montreal when we hosted our region's platform for disaster risk reduction. Our governments approved both a regional action plan, which identified 16 concrete steps to deliver the Sendai framework at a regional level, and the Montreal Declaration, a high-level commitment to reducing disaster risk. We are very proud of the progress we have made on this concerted regional approach. We now look to Cancun to strengthen our ability to further put words into action in our region and globally to build links to other regions. All countries are facing an increase in the number of disasters, and these disasters are hitting us with greater force than ever before, causing great loss of life, destroying livelihoods, and weakening our economies. All countries are searching for the most efficient, most effective way of building resilience to these events. Canada believes that the best way to build resilience is to put people at the center of decision-making. Doing so leads to better decisions that saves more lives, protects more livelihoods, moves us closer to inclusive prosperity, good health, and well-being. The Sendai framework offers a roadmap for this vision. And in Canada, we are taking particularly note of these key signposts: empowering women and girls, including the most vulnerable and the most fragile, working across sectors, levels, and demographics, including the private sector, academia, volunteers, and youth, safeguarding Indigenous culture, traditional knowledge, and ways of learning. Canada believes that when women and girls are involved from design through delivery of resilience-building efforts, all members of society benefit. Indeed, women and girls can be powerful agents of change. We have deep reservoirs of knowledge and experience that can contribute to climate change adaptation, disaster risk reduction, and mitigation efforts. Gender equality, the empowerment of women and girls, and the realization of their human rights are all central to Canadian policies, both at home and abroad. In DRR, this means using a whole-of-society approach, multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder, including all actors, men and boys too, as parents and partners in an important part of this process in order to successfully rebalance unequal power relations and challenge norms and stereotypes that limit the human potential of all members of our society. De la même façon, la jeunesse constitue un puissant agent de changement qui apporte des perspectives nouvelles, innovantes et variées à nos façons de faire. We will continue to engage with Indigenous peoples, women and girls, and youth on vulnerability and empowerment in the context of disaster risk reduction. Sendai came at a critical time when the world was fundamentally rethinking what it means to progress in a sustainable way, what it means to move forward without leaving anyone behind. People look to their government for strong leadership in reducing disaster risk. Catastrophic events like the severe flooding this year across the Americas, affecting over 1 million people in Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru, and the devastating droughts in the Horn of Africa require more than government action alone. Similarly, small island states are particularly vulnerable to disaster risk, including the effects of climate change. Disasters are on the rise in Canada. At this time last year, raging fires collectively known as the Beast consumed the communities of Wood Buffalo, Fort McMurray in our western province of Alberta. It cut through a city and 500,000 hectares of forest, displacing 90,000 residents. Although in Canada we managed to reduce the cost of life due to those disasters, The costs to individuals and to our economy are enormous, and they are increasing. Overland flooding costs the Canadian economy more than any other hazard we face, disrupting the lives of our citizens for many years after the waters have receded. Le Canada a récemment subi l'inondation dévastatrice dans plusieurs provinces à travers le pays, l'Ontario et le Québec ayant été particulièrement affectés. Canada has adopted a whole-of-society approach to engagement, working through meaningful partnerships. Canada has a new federal flood mapping framework that Canada's Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness, my colleague, the Honourable Ralph Goodale, announced during the 5th Regional Platform for DRR in the Americas. This innovative guide will inform decisions and investments to reduce impacts of flooding across the country. Canada is also developing an emergency management strategy for Canada in partnership with provincial and territorial governments, Indigenous peoples, and municipalities to better predict, prepare for, and respond to our weather-related emergencies and natural disasters. We all must look for opportunities to support communities and nations most vulnerable to disasters with specific challenges. This includes the least developed countries and small island developing states. Canada was a principal supporter of the Caribbean Disaster Risk Management Fund. This fund supported activities across sectors, including work to mitigate the effects of natural disasters by strengthening key institutions. Canada will continue to work, both at home and around the world, toward our shared vision of a safer and more resilient world. Here in Cancun, we must seize this valuable opportunity to share best practices and look for ways to work better together. Together, we must identify what barriers remain to reducing disaster risk and decide what we can do now as global partners to overcome these challenges. The Government of Canada is committed to continuing to work towards the implementation of the Sendai Framework. An important complement to this work is being here, being part of these global conversations on disaster risk reduction. Thank you very much. Merci.
Thank you very much, Mark Holland, for your statement.